Hello everyone, welcome back. My phone had just stopped filming and I missed painting these two awnings from last week. They are just black with water, so watered down. If you didn't have black, you could just use Payne's grey or any colour really. You could even use a terracotta colour, but I just chose that because it was so soft. And so to put the indication of tile lines in, I'm just going to use Payne's grey here. Again, I'm using the same chisel brush, and I just want to go in this little, I'll exaggerate it here, it's like a dot dash, squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. And repeating it in this way, and that's why I use a chisel brush, because the mark that the brush tip is making is very conducive to being a roof tile. You know, if you had to put more detail in. So that's why I'm using this particular chisel brush as well. And this is just very small. There's only going to be a few rows of tiles, perhaps not even that many. Yeah, that will do. Now I'm just going to put a little bit more detail into everything at this point. So I will come back in darkened shadows at the end if I need to, and I can already see that I need to. But at this stage, I'm just going to start on soft lines, similar to the tile lines here, but I'll darken the colour that I already used for this wall section, timber slats, and because it's not wet, when I use it now it's going to seem a little bit darker. The other option you could have would be here to use a watercolour pencil. It's a bit bright, but that would be okay. You could just use that, or as I'm doing here, just use the same colour as the wall. Again, if you feel you want to, you could use a ruler just to be guided by, to put those lines in. And if you wanted to measure them all to keep them both horizontal and equidistant, obviously you could do that as well, if you want it to be that precise. I'm not really worrying about that at this stage. Just giving a hint of that line work. And then here, same thing with the door. If you wanted to, you could measure these little door edges, or the frame, I should say. And then using that same colour of the door, but drier, which means it's more intense. And again, some timber. Vary it as much as you want. And then I might go back to the Payne's grey for a cute little door handle. Now for that colour to be in shadow, and I'm noticing this shadow up here is too weak for what I want, so I'm just going to go with the Payne's grey, and I'm going to add more of that colour into it, which is my, I'll show you here, this little light burnt sienna, or you could even use burnt sienna as well, would be fine. And I'm just going to add that into the Payne's grey. If I wanted to get that richer, I would literally go straight into a red or a reddy pink. I'm just going to use this really red colour here. And you can see that just gives that more intensity. So what I'm using this for in particular is the edging shadow line of this door. And the shadow up here, which I will have to use my ruler for. Hover above, and oopsie, not great, but it'll do. Okay, definitely showing me some strength there in that shadow now. Oops. While I've got the Payne's grey out, I'll do these pots, show you how I do these pots. And basically it's just a hit and miss, and you're going in a horizontal way. My focus though with them is the sun's coming from here, so when I do these pots, I'm making sure that my heaviest lines are on the right hand side. Just a little curved at the edges, nothing too far away from being horizontal, really. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I've used that same colour for the planter boxes, so I'm just going to re-wet that now and add that in. And the side one here as well. Now I think we're pretty much ready for a little bit of background, and then I can put in these finishing touches. Points to look out for. This is a hanging coloured pot with little flowers coming out of it. And over here we do have hanging, well not hanging, but plants growing in there as well. I want to lay down where the green leaves are for this entry plant, because I want to go around that, and likewise here. But you might draw the chairs that I have if you want, and just time, I'm sorry, is not permitting me to go into that. But if you have any questions about them, please leave them in the comments and I'll help you with those chairs. So what I'm doing at this stage now is, because I'm painting background, and you can see in the actual image that I did, I faded it off. And if you want to fade it off, that's fine. If you wanted to add a bit of sky, you could. So remember, the best thing to do always for sky, when it's not just a painting of the sky and the sky as an accessory, is to look at adding water to your paper first. It softens it off. It allows you just to put a hint of blue in without making it too dominant or flat. So you can just put little blobs and they become little bit pockets of blue sky around clouds. And I just feel like it just gives you a lot of freedom to play. So, you know, blob a bit of blue on, you can lift it back off if it's too much. You could put a hint of another blue in there if you wanted to liven it up a little bit. So wet on wet is my go-to technique for a cloudy sky. Find it, yeah, fun and relaxing, rather than stressing out trying to paint a particular cloud or what have you. So I might leave that there. Oopsie, I've forgotten to draw in the chimney. Just, that will do. Okay. And let's do that just in a little bit of Payne's grey as well. Oh, phew. Thought it wasn't filming again. So I'm just going down this one right-hand side here. Oh, sorry, a bit crooked. Doesn't really matter. That'll do. And I'll darken a little bit of that up at the end. Now, for the indication of the pine trees, many different types, obviously. I'm just doing what I'm familiar with here, which is like called a Norfolk pine. And basically, I'm going to go back to my smaller beveled chisel brush, and just Payne's grey will do me, because I want it to be quite faded. And what I can do is I can add in the tiniest bit of that green off the wall of the house, because that little hint of green is going to link to the house, but the Payne's grey is going to make it darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the paper first. I'll get my medium chisel and just wet this down the side. Be careful to not let it run into your safe areas for your plants, your leaves, and of course the wall of the building. And then, using my chisel at the tip, I'm going to come straight down, and I start to go out in a triangular way. See how, because I've wet the page, it's got a nice softening effect? Now, if I want to vary this a little bit, I can put a touch of a different green into it. I'm just going to put more of a hooker green, I think it's called. A little bit prettier, a little bit bluer. I can put that into it if I want. I can make it much darker if I choose by putting, you know, more Payne's grey in there if I want to. which I might at this stage. So by adding in more Payne's Grey here, I can go quite dark. I can come back over and be more specific as it dries. So remember the power in realising how damp your paper is, and the power in knowing how wet your mix is that you're applying is just, can be your superpower in watercolour painting. If you get to practice and you understand that that has so much to do with how your paintings turn out, you know, I would say it's probably one of the key things in building your confidence as well, is realising if the paint is too runny or the paper's too wet, how it's going to look. So I'm just ad-libbing a bit here. Now it's all looking a bit too green, so I'm going to come in with a little bit of ultramarine blue. That's a bit better. And a bit of Payne's Grey. Just to vary things a little bit, change them up a tiny bit. I'm more trying to get, I'm more focused on trying to get the depth there to make the house look more cosy than the colours being, you know, perfectly correct. You know, you don't have to be as neat as I'm being. As you know, I'm naturally a very neat painter, so I realise I'm getting very neat with this. Now down the bottom, it looks like I just went a bit different with another little shrubby sort of colour here, so I'll do the same. Just something else, I guess, in the bush. Okay. And I'll do the same on this side, so wet it. I'm going to keep things quite soft and gentle on this other side though, so like ghost the plants in a bit lighter. I'm going to leave that there for now, see what I need to do down here later. And now just being really bold about the planters, the window boxes, I mean. I'm just going to get a small round brush for this, and this allows me to go much stronger with my tone. So my Payne's Grey. So these little planters can be quite intense because they're the personality pop. They're like the colourful cushions in a neutral room. That's a little pop of intensity and colour. That's going to just liven up the sunlight, the strength, and also make it just look that little cosy little cottagey thing. So this is a yellowy light green, and the point of difference is what makes this powerful. The fact that we have not used this colour elsewhere in the painting, or a little bit here, but that's softened. Just remember, when you're painting something, if you want it to have power, use it sparsely. The more you use a colour, here, there and everywhere, the less impact visually it will have, because your brain starts to go, oh, there, it's there, it's there, it's there. But when you use something sparsely, it's got a much greater visual impact. So say this pink, this magenta, I'm going to use it there and there, and a little bit of a lighter colour over here. And that's really popping because, you know, I'm using it so softly. Now with that same shadowy colour, and I'll add a bit more to that, that's going to come down because it's casting a shadow on the timber planter before it even hits the wall. Okay. And this little pot on the side, I should really make that a same timber colour-ish. And perhaps a darker green because it's in the shade quite a bit. Hanging down. And maybe a different coloured flower, sort of red. Again, less is more. With the plants now here, I do want to use a stronger, nicer green. So I'm going to use more of a bluey green, which doesn't look realistic enough. But remember our sap green earlier that we added? I'm going to use that and a tiny bit of Payne's grey. Oh, is that a tiny bit? I don't think so, but that'll do for our shadowy areas. Maybe our stems. So this one here can be quite shadowed. A few shadowy shapes. Usually with watercolour you want to leave the shadowy bits till last, but in this case I think it'll be fine to put a few shadowy bits in there. So I'll remake that recipe, but not so much dark. So this one, the sap yellow based green, the very pretty green, and just a smidge of that colour. That's good. So then that's going to be just our entry pot, and maybe something similar over here. If you want to water that down, that can make a really nice soft variation as well. Some extra leaves. And then our other little one, I say we just go into that little sap green and make the mark different. This is really dry now, dry brush that I'm putting on, and I'm rotating it around and it's quite different. So I might even wet my brush and wet that a little bit to lift that up to the top, and that can sit there as it is. Now for the entry, what I might do is I'll go back to, say, a burnt sienna colour. I'll add a little bit of French ultramarine blue to the burnt sienna right towards the door, and then horizontal strokes will give me that distance feeling, like it's coming from somewhere. And then besides that, I might just put a little bit of this same colour, but again I'm adding a little bit more of the duller green. And look how runny it is. It's very runny. And I'm just going to dab that along. Now that's a bit too close to the house, so a little bit more sap green is going to go into that. And then I'm just going to wash it off really quickly. On this side now, I feel like we need that weight as well. So here we go again. I'm re-wetting, or not re-wetting, I'm wetting this area and then here. And I'm just going to go in with this darker colour. Again, my Payne's grey, which is always my go-to for darks. And I might make it feel like it's like a little shrub or something. It's not very wet. Just in the side there, a bit more of that different coloured green, and then to tone it down, a bit more Payne's grey. I'm just not wanting to get that on the wall, because this point's where you can't really muck up, because if I went over the wall now with this, I'd lose that believability that that's in behind the front wall. So at times neatness is a necessity for understanding, and this is one of those times, so I have to stay true to that. And that can just fade off, really. Fade off to nothing. I might make this a bit darker. Sorry. I've had a much smoother hand tonight, so that's one good thing about taking some time to get everything back together and try all this again. Not so stressed. Okay, so what little things would I add in now to give this a little bit more pop and a bit more strength? I would go around and reinforce my shadows where I felt I wanted to, as I did here. Perhaps here could have a little bit more oomph. So what I mean by that is you've got the depth there, but it's a little bit grey. So I'm going to have my nice vibrant sap green. Sorry, I just have to see if it's still going. Yes. And I'm just going to add a bit of that in here, and then wash it off. And just adding that makes it a little bit more vibrant. So I'm going to do it down here as well. A little bit more punch. got a black pen here, and this can be the bottom, the chains that hold up this hanging pot. And also I can just go down the edge and a little bit of shadow from the foliage. Always remember that as well. The shadow goes onto the pot. A bit more, perhaps just a line here, and darken that a little bit. Oh, I know what I've missed. I've missed the shadow on the side here. So what we need to show is, one, that the edge is in shadow because it's set back. So again, that's going to be my burnt sienna and a little bit of Payne's grey. Not too much. And that can just be pretty much a straight, thick band coming down, pushes it back. And then from there, and I won't go through the explanation of this because it's a whole other lesson to do with perspective and things going away from us, but that is going to cast a shadow back on that awning. You'll see it just makes sense. So that's that. Been a little bit more delicate in this one, not as punchy as the one that I've painted originally, but I hope you're okay with that. The only other thing I can think of is that I didn't do the shadows down here. Perhaps a bit of a dark edge there and a dark edge, oopsie, down there. I've got a feeling I just want to put, that's a bit nicer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry about the timing and everything that's gone wrong, but here we are, finally having it done. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything that I've missed, anything that you would want me to explain more. I hope this one's not too long either. Okay, thanks everybody, and please have a creative week. Thank you. All the best. Bye.